There is so much data on the internet, but collecting it can be really difficult. And if you have any experience with web scraping, you probably know what I'm talking about. Websites do not always want to give away their data. So for those who are new to web scraping basically means that you scrape structured data from the internet. And this can be real estate data, stock data, e-commerce data, or any other data. Now, a while ago I made a video about web scraping that performed quite well. And based on this video I received a lot of questions. And that's exactly why I decided to make this video to answer all your questions. Most websites don't like to give away their data, so you will face CAPTCHAs, forward-3 errors and many more challenges while trying to get the data you need. Now in this video you will learn 9 techniques that will allow you to scrape almost any website on the internet. We will start with using headers, then dive into proxy servers and then continue with websites that use asynchronous loading. Now make sure to watch this video to the end, because at the end of this video I will show a technique that allows you to scrape even the most difficult websites. This video is sponsored by Bright Data, and in this video I'll show a few examples on how to use their services. Now if you want to make these examples together with me, there is a $15 coupon code in the description of this video. But before diving into the more advanced techniques, let's start with the basics of web scraping. Okay, let's start with scraping a really simple website, and the website that we're going to scrape in this video is this one. You can find the link to this website in the description of this video. The script that I just showed you on my screen is this script, so you can just navigate to this website. You'll find the script here, then navigate to View Raw, and then you can just Ctrl-A, Ctrl-C the script and paste it in your own editor. So as you can see, this website has been built like many websites on the web. So it consists of some items, so you have all different kind of houses, and then for every house it shows some properties. So for example, for this house it shows the location, the number of bedrooms and the number of bathrooms. And it shows as well the price. And you might think, hey, the website that I want to scrape doesn't look exactly the same, but the outline should be very similar. So you have items and every item has then different attributes, okay? So let's navigate to the script and let's see how we can scrape this website. And of course, I'm starting with importing the right libraries. So first of all, I'm importing requests, and this library is just to make a call to the website, and then I basically get back the HTML. Then I as well use Beautiful Soup. And as soon as I have the HTML, I'm going to use Beautiful Soup to parse the data. So to basically make sense of the HTML and to extract the correct elements. And then I use Pandas, this library, to at the end write all the data to either an Excel file or a CSV file. So those are the libraries that we're going to use. And now if you want to build the script together with me, make sure that you have all these libraries installed. So just navigate to Terminal, New Terminal, and then I'm going to type pip install Beautiful Soup 4. Now if you're on a Mac or on a Linux computer, you're going to type pip 3 install Beautiful Soup 4 and then you press enter. Next you're going to install the request library, so type pip install requests and press enter. And then last you're going to install pandas by typing pip install pandas. Hit enter after each command and you're good to go. And then you see here that we start with initiating an integer current page, which is going to help looping us through all the pages of the website, and initiate a list called data. And this is the list that I'm at the end going to write to the Excel file. Okay, then what we're going to do first is we're going to loop through every page of this website. And if you navigate to the website, then you see that we start at page 1. And if you remove this, you'll also be at page 1. And then at the bottom of this website, you see that we can also navigate to page 2, page 3, etc., etc. And then you see as well that this URL is going to change, okay? I'm just writing to the console, currently scraping page 1, 2, 3, etc. And then I'm fetching the page. So what you see here is I'm fetching the URL, and then end page is current page. So is this the integer that we initiated at the beginning of the script? And this is where we're going to make the actual request. So we say page is equal to request.get URL, of course, referring to this URL. And this is the most basic version of request.get. Later in this video, I'm as well going to show you how you can use a proxy server with proxies, and how you can, for example, also provide headers with headers is equal to headers. So that's all for later in this video. For now, we're just going to start with the basics. And then this is where we are initiating the Beautiful Soup object. So we are referring it to page.text, which is basically the text that we get back from this request. And then we're telling Beautiful Soup that we want to parse the HTML. You can also change this to other parsers, for example, XML and any kind of structure. But for now, it's going to be this one, as most pages are HTML. Okay, then this is where the real extracting starts, so the parsing of this data. So I'm initiating all items, which is equal to soup.findAll. So you see here that I'm looking for a div, and with findAll, this method does exactly what it says it does. It's going to fetch all the elements which are of type div and have the class card. And if I go back to this website and I click here on inspect, and you will basically see here that if you scroll through these elements, you will scroll to the different houses. So every house is of element div and has then the class card. And of course, if you don't have a div, but for example, a list item or maybe a span, just change this to a span or a list item, for example, but for now it's a div. And of course, for the class, then you provide the actual class that you see here. For now, it's card, but of course it could be anything. So you just put that here. Okay, and now comes the important part. What I'm basically doing here is I'm basically creating an infinite loop. And then here I have some kind of a stopping condition. So basically here I say, as soon as there is a page which has no items, so the length of all items is less than 1, then I'm going to break the loop. And if you go to this page, let's just go to page, let's say 100, for example. Then here you see that the title of the website is still the same, houses to scrape. You also see this here, but you just don't see any houses. And different websites have different makeup. So what you also will sometimes see is that, for example, the title is something like 404 page not found. So make sure that your stopping condition, that you change that. So this one works in most of the cases, right? But you can also do something like this. If soup.title.text is equal to 404 not found, then you break it, right? So this is also possible. And then if you do that, of course, you have to make sure that you just copy the exact title from the page. Just navigate to view page source, and then you'll find the title here, houses to scrape. If it says here 404, just make sure that you copy the exact title so that you avoid any typos. Let's get back to the script. So here we are stopping when we have scraped all the pages. Okay, and then what we're basically doing here, this is where we're going to loop through every house that we have identified here. And then for every house, we're going to fetch the attribute. So what you will see here is that I'm extracting to location, item find h5, card title. And let's just go back to page 1. So click here, right mouse, click on inspect. And you will see here that if you expand this item here, you will see that there is an h5 with class card title. And then it says New York. So that's the location. So what I'm doing here is I'm searching for an h5 tag. And of course, this could also be a div or a span. But for now, it's an h5, which has the class card title. Then for bedrooms, I'm also searching for a span with the class bedrooms. And of course, if you click here on the element, so just click here on the 4, click on inspect, and then you will see here span class bedrooms 4. It's also possible that you see something here like 4 bedrooms, and then you just have to get rid of the bedrooms item. And I'm going to show you later how to do that. Then the next attribute is the amount of bathrooms. So click on inspect, and then you see here bathrooms 1, and this is a part of the span with class bathrooms. Okay, so you will see here that those are identical. Bedrooms, bathrooms, they're both a span. So that's quite easy. Now, what I did for the price, that one is a bit more difficult. So just click here on inspect. I will see that we have a div with an ID, which is equal to price. So I'm going to search for this element here, which has the ID price. Okay, and then you see here the piece of code that I used to fetch the price from the page. So I'm just going to go back to the website, click here on inspect. So then you will see here that we have a div, which has an ID, which is equal to price. So as you can see here, item find, we are looking for a div, which has the ID price. And then we use .text, and then I as well .replace, and I replace the comma sign space by nothing. And this is just to make sure that we are getting rid of the $sign and the space. Then at the end of the script, so what I'm doing here is I'm appending the dictionary to the list that we have created at the beginning of the script. That's this one. And then at the end of the script, you see here that I'm creating a data frame from data, and I'm writing the data to Excel and as well to CSV. You see here index is false, and this is just to make sure that you don't get a column at the beginning which mentions the row of the data like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't like it. If you want to see what happens if you remove this tag, just try it out and you will see why it matters. And this is the entire script. Okay, and now let's run the script just to see if it actually works. So click here, and I will see it goes through every page. So it also scrapes page 7, and this is necessary because it needs to see that there is no data on page 7, and that's why it will stop, okay? So let's open the files that we have created, reveal in File Explorer. Let's start with the Excel. I will see here that we have the location, the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, and then as well the price. And if you go to the CSV file, just opening it in Notepad, you will see that we have the same data. Okay, so this is what we call like the basics of web scraping. And this is a website that I built myself. So of course, this website is not going to prevent you from scraping it. But if you're going to scrape real websites, it's quite easy for those websites to find out that you're not using a browser, but that you're actually using a Python script. So in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly how you can spoof your headers. So for the website, it seems like the request is coming from a normal browser. Let's get into it. Okay, let's take a look at this website, scrapethissite.com/pages/advanced and gotcha as headers. I will see here headers properly spoofed, request appears to be coming from a browser. So this looks good. Now I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to paste it here in VS Code and let's run the script. And I will see accept value is missing text HTML. User agent value doesn't look like a standard Mozilla, Chrome or Safari value. So what Python basically does when it sends request with the request module, it's sending something like, hey, the user agent is Python, so this is not a real browser. And not every website likes to be scraped. So some websites have some kind of script that checks for the user agent and some other values. So what we're going to do, we're going to navigate to this website, http://headers. And this website will give me the actual headers that Chrome is sending to this website. So those are all the headers that the request module of Python didn't send. So I'm just going to copy this part from here, Control C. Then I'm going to create a new variable here, headers, like this. So I'm just going to remove this part, the Amazon trace ID. Then I'm gonna keep the user agent because this one is important. And I'm going to also keep the accept encoding and the accept language. And then if you want to send headers, of course, you have to add that here to your request.get. So here I'm going to say headers is equal to headers. And this way you provide these headers with the request. So let's run the script again. And you will see that I get all kind of weird characters. And that's because I'm accepting all kinds of encoding. So I'm just going to remove this one, accept encoding, because I am not accepting any encoding. I just want to get back plain text/HTML. So let's do it like this. And so now we still have accept language, and the user agent, which is kind of important. Let's close this one and let's run the script again. Okay, and now you will see that we get back HTML. And what it's saying now, headers properly spoofed, request appears to coming from a browser. So of course, this request is not coming from a browser, but for this website, it appears that this request is not coming from a browser. So of course, you can get back to a previous script. So just copy this. Let's, for example, let's just put this one here. And then you can say here, page.request and headers is equal to headers. And then while you're scraping, the headers will be sent to this web page. Okay, so let's imagine that you are a web server and you're getting like 100 requests in 1 minute from the same IP address. So in the next section, I'm going to show you how you can use a proxy server to avoid exposing your own IP address. And then I'm even going to show you how you can rotate proxies so that these 100 requests seem to be coming from 10 different users. Let's get into it. If you're really sending a ton of requests to a web server, your IP address can get blocked or your IP address can get on all kind of lists. And you definitely want to avoid that. So what you can do is use a proxy server. Just for your information, you don't need a proxy server if you're sending like 10 or 20 requests to a website. But if you get above like the 100 and especially above the 1,000 requests, then I would definitely advise to send all your requests through a proxy server. And there is a list with proxy servers on the web, so you can navigate to freeproxylist.net. And then you see here all kind of proxy servers. You see that some of them do not accept the HTTPS protocol, so those are HTTP proxy servers. And you also have servers like this one that allow you to connect with HTTPS. So what I've done, I've taken two random proxy servers, I've put them here in proxies. Just before I start, I'm going to make a request to ident.me. I'm not using a proxy server yet. And when I send this request, you will see that I get back my IP address and as well the status code. And what this website ident.me does, it will just give you back your own IP address, just like I visited in my browser. And this allows me to check whether I'm connecting through my proxy server. So you see here that I've configured a dictionary for proxies. I have one HTTP proxy and one HTTPS proxy here. And the request module will automatically select the proxy that is applicable for this website. So let's just run this request. Okay, so we just got back our own IP address. And when I now enable proxies, so I'm going to say proxies is equal to proxies. And then I'm providing these two proxy servers. I should get back the IP address of the proxy server and not the IP address ending with 149. So let's try that out. And this is exactly one of the challenges with free proxy servers. I'm getting back an error. So I'm going to try to remove the S here. So I'm connecting with the HTTP proxy server and hopefully that one will work. And as you can see, I'm now getting back a different IP address. It's not the one that's ending on 149 and as well status code 200. So what you see on my screen is a method to rotate proxies. So first of all, the proxies that I've provided here, at the moment that you watch this video, probably those proxy servers are not active anymore. So just navigate to the free proxy list and then check which proxy servers are active, because they are checked every few seconds, right? So if you just get the proxies at the top of this list, you always have fresh proxy servers. Then let's go back to VS Code and see how the script works. So here I provide the HTTP proxies and the HTTPS proxies. I've already explained what the difference is and that the request module will automatically select the appropriate proxy protocol. Okay, then as you can see here, I'm also using headers. And then what I'm going to do here is, in this case, I just want to scrape 5 pages. Of course, with the examples that you've already seen before, you know how to change the script to make it applicable for your situation. So we're going to scrape 5 pages, starting with page 1. And then the website that we're going to scrape is again ident.me, because I just want to show you that we use different IP addresses with the proxy rotation. As you can see here, then I'm selecting a random proxy from the list of HTTP proxies and a random proxy for the list of HTTPS proxies, because it could be the situation, for example, that here there are 5 proxies and here there are 10. So that's why they both have their unique random number. Then the proxies are provided here. So the proxies that we provide in the script are the selected proxies. So it could be that one time we select proxy 1, the second time we select proxy 3, for example, etc., etc. And we do that for both the HTTP and the HTTPS proxies. Then here we provide the URL, the headers, the proxies, and I as well have added a timeout of 3 seconds. You can just play around with the timeout, but by default, I can already tell you it's quite long. If anything goes wrong here, then the request will fail, but the script will keep trying to scrape the same page until it's successful. And then there is another situation where this does not fail and the script doesn't throw an error, but we get a different status code than 200. Because 200 is the status code that is like the correct status code, like here is the page, and some other status codes are like, hey, you are blocked or whatever, okay? So only as soon as the status code is 200 and there is no error, that is a situation where we continue with the next page. And then here, this is where we write all the data to the Excel file or the CSV file. But at this moment, there is no data. So keep that in mind. So let me run the script. I will see that some of the proxies, so in this case, we get a failed request. Well, that happens. And then the second time we get a good request. So that happens for every page. And you see, for example, for page 3, the request is immediately successful. So this is a simple method to rotate proxies, taking into concern errors and everything that can happen. And of course, you're free to modify this script to accommodate it to your situation. Okay, so while I made this video, it took me quite a while to find all the IP addresses of the proxy servers and then check whether the proxy servers were working as expected. And what I would advise you if you're working on a real project is to use a real proxy server. You pay for it. You only pay like maybe like 1/10 of a cent for every request. So it's not going to cost you a lot of money, but it's going to save you a lot of hassle. And of course, you can use any paid proxy server that you want. But the service that I have a really good experience with is Bright Data. And the cool thing about Bright Data is that they have proxy rotation built in, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's see how that works. So web scraping with a Bright Data proxy is really easy. So let me show you exactly how easy it is. So first of all, I'm going to take the example that we made at the beginning of this video and I'm going to copy it to this script. And then I'm going to navigate to the website from Bright Data. And if you navigate to this URL, you'll find an example script. Then I'm going to just copy paste. For now, I'm just going to put it at the bottom of this script. Then I'm going to remove this one. We already imported request. And then these variables, I'm all going to take them to the top of this page, like somewhere here. Then let's remove this part. And then the only thing that we still need to do is add here, and proxies is equal to proxies, like this. And we just have to configure these parameters, and I'm going to show you how easy that is. So navigate to the website from Bright Data, make sure that you're logged in. Navigate to the user dashboard, and then we're going to navigate to proxies and scraping, and we're going to add a new residential proxy. So you can just click here on add. Then I'm going to call my zone residential proxy 3, like this. You can click on shared unless you want to have a dedicated IP address. Then there are still some advanced settings. For now, I'm just going to leave them like this. And then I'm going to click on add and yes. Now the proxy has been created. And so I already have this one. So I'm just going to copy the username. I'm going to put the username right here. And I'm going to paste the password right beneath it, like here. And that's it. And now we should be able to scrape with a proxy from Bright Data. So let's try that out. So in this script, we're not just going to make a request to a website and then get back the HTML, but we're going to start a real browser. And because of that, we also need a new library, and that's the Selenium library. So navigate to terminal, new terminal. Then I'm going to type here pip install Selenium and press enter. Now, if you already worked with Selenium in the past, then you probably know that before you had to install a driver and then you had to provide here the location to that driver. In the latest version of Selenium, that's not needed anymore. So I'm really going to ask you, if you already worked with Selenium and you already installed the library, then please update the Selenium library to the latest version, and then you can use this script. So let's close the terminal. Okay, let's quickly go to the script. So I'm loading all the necessary libraries, Selenium, Pandas, Time, and Beautiful Soup 4. And then this is where we open the browser. I'm using the Chrome browser, so make sure that Chrome is installed on your computer. And then I'm maximizing the window just so that it can see the entire website. Then I loop through all pages. I use the same script. So we navigate to current page. What's important here is that we navigate to driver.get URL to scrape, and that's the driver that we have initiated right here. And then from driver, we get the page source. I'm opening the page in the web browser, and then I'm waiting for 1 second before I get the HTML. You can also try to remove this or even increase the number in case you have a really slow internet connection. Then this is where we do the same as we also did in the previous script. We use Beautiful Soup in order to fetch the content. And then from here, the script is basically the same as in the previous versions of the script, because here we use Beautiful Soup and we extract the content of the website. So I'm just going to run the script, and as soon as I run the script, you will see why this script is really different, because it will open an actual browser. So we just got started with Selenium. Do you remember the websites where you scroll and then new data appears? So basically those websites, they keep asking for more data from the server, and if you scrape them the way that we started scraping, you just get like the first 5 or 6 items, but not more. So for that, we're going to use Selenium, and then with Selenium, we're going to scroll to the bottom of this page to get all the data, and then we're going to scrape the website. Let's see what that looks like. You see that I have a new script here. We use Selenium and all the libraries we also used in the previous script. Then we only have one URL to scrape. We don't have multiple URLs because the website doesn't have pagination. You've already seen this in the previous script. What's really different in this script is that we have an infinite loop here. And now what we do is we execute a JavaScript where we scroll with 1000 pixels to the bottom of this website. Then we wait for 1 second, and then we get the new height of the browser. So the browser has a height which in the beginning is something like, I'm just making this up, like 1000 pixels, for example. And if we scroll down, it's for example, 2000 pixels. So how do we know when we stop? As soon as the new height is the same as the height that we've seen earlier, then the browser is not expanding anymore. And then we know that we have all the content rendered on the website, and then we can scrape it. So that's why we are using this more or less infinite loop, where we only stop if the website doesn't expand anymore. And then we do everything that we've already done before. We use Beautiful Soup in order to fetch the content from this website. I'm just going to remove the data sets that we have created earlier. So let's remove them. And then let's run the script to see what we get. Okay, so you see as soon as we're not scrolling anymore, the script stops. So let's see what we get. I see that we have scraped here the titles and as well the price of every laptop, and we have quite some laptops here on the screen. Of course, if you want to get more attributes of these laptops, you know how to do this, and you can just add them yourself. One thing that I would like to add is that I would really encourage you to play with these numbers. So for example, try scrolling more than 1,000 pixels, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 pixels. See if you can decrease the delay here. So for now, I'm waiting 1 second after every scroll, just to give the browser and JavaScript the time to just load the page and make the API request. You can try to increase or decrease this based on how fast your internet connection is. And then here we're just getting back the new height. So you can also try to put new height and less height on the screen, and you will see how this script works. Okay, so you just learned how you can keep scrolling with Selenium and fetch the data. Now there is another variant on this website, and that's the variant where you don't scroll and new data appears, but where you have to click on a button, and then every time you click on a button, new data appears. So this is almost the same, but still a bit different, and I'm also going to show you how you can scrape data from these websites. Let's take a look at the script, which is like 90% the same as the previous script that you see. We also don't loop through multiple pages because there's only one page. And what we do here is we also use the last height, new height variables, but this time we don't only scroll, because we also scroll here, but as soon as we've scrolled, we also try to click on a button. So you see here that I try to identify a button, and the way I normally do that is by using by.id, and then you put here the ID of this element. And if I navigate to this website and I inspect this button, then you will see that for some reason this button does have a class, but it doesn't have an ID. So that's a bit weird. Normally they do have an ID, but in this case, I use by, and then I use link text. So if you use VS Code, just type by dot, and then you see all kind of ways to select the element that you want. In this case, I use by link text, and of course the link text, as you can see, is more. So what I do then, this is, by the way, I use a try except else statement here. So in case we get an error, the script doesn't stop, but it continues. And in case you get a cookie warning for a website, of course, if you use the request method, it doesn't matter if there is a cookie notification on the website, because we only fetch the HTML. We're not interested in the website itself. But as soon as you use Selenium, a cookie notification can matter, because it prevents you from clicking on the buttons. So if this is the case, you can just copy this. You can just paste it, for example, somewhere here. And then you just try to click on the cookie notification by identifying it by changing this text, basically. This website doesn't have a cookie notification, so this is not necessary. But all the rest that we do in the script is just the same. So we try to scroll, then we try to click on the button. Then we let the script sleep for 1 second, just to give the website some time to render the content. And then we check whether the new height is the same as the last height. If that is the case, then we stop this loop. And if that's not the case, then we keep continuing to load the content. All the rest is like 100% the same as in the previous script, so I'm not going to go through it. So let's see how this works. And I'm going to close this website. So you see, as soon as the website is entirely rendered, that's when we close this script. So let's take a look at the result. Let's open the Excel file. And then you see here as well that we have scraped all the laptops, including their prices. So with the examples that you've seen in this video, I think we can handle like 80 or 85% of the websites, but there are still some websites, and those are mostly very popular websites like Facebook or LinkedIn, that we cannot scrape because they know that they are being scraped. And I think it's quite easy to imagine that these websites spend like millions of dollars just to avoid getting scraped. So the only thing you can do if you want to scrape these websites is to work with a web scraper API. Let's see how that works. So as I mentioned before, there is always that one website that you just cannot scrape. And for that, Bright Data has invented the Web Scraper API. So I'm just going to open the Web Scraper API. And then you see here all the data sets that they offer. So by default, you see that Facebook pops up. But trust me, they have data sets for all the big websites. The data set that I'm going to work with today is Zillow. And if you live in the US, you probably know Zillow. So I'm going to navigate to real estate data and then navigate to Zillow.com. Now you will see that they have different data sets. So for example, they have a data set about the price history of every house, and they also have a data set about the properties of every house. So I'm going to open this data set. And then, as I mentioned before, there was a link in the description of this video that provides you $15 of credit, so you can just try this API with me. And then we're going to navigate to data collection and APIs. Before you can collect any data, you need to make sure that you have an API key. So just navigate here to get API token. Then you can fill in your API token here. Then you're going to switch to Windows CMD if you're using Windows. And then you can just copy this, open the console, and you can just paste it here and see if it works, okay? So that's the first step to see whether your API is working as expected. And of course, if you have generated the API token, fill it in here and it will automatically appear here as well. Okay, then let's go to the technical side of things. So first of all, this API works in 2 steps. So first of all, you're going to ask Bright Data to crawl a page and to scrape the data. And secondly, once it has scraped it, you're going to make another API call to fetch the data. And you can make this configuration more complex, where Bright Data will send you a request to an API that you configured, etc., etc. But for now, I'm not going to dive into that. I'm just going to keep this really simple. And as well, just for your information, you can as well provide up to 20 URLs here. But what I'm going to do here in this example, I'm just going to make one request for every URL. Okay, so let's open the script. So you see here the script that I've configured. You can fill in the API key here, and you fill in the dataset ID here. And the dataset ID, that's basically this key. So now we are scraping the Zillow data, but if you use, for example, Airbnb data, you're probably going to use another data set. So just fill in the API key and the dataset ID, and then the headers will automatically be created. Then I use an Excel file, and that's this Excel file. I'm just going to put it on the screen. So this is the Excel file that I'm using. So what you see here is that you have URLs. So first time that we run the script, I'm going to make an API call for every URL to Bright Data, and Bright Data is just going to give me the snapshot ID. And the snapshot ID is basically an ID with a location where the data is stored. And the reason that they have made this multi-step process is because first you make a request, but it's possible that Bright Data still has to scrape the website, right? So it's possible that this will take like 1, 2, or 3 seconds. And that's why you have to make the second API key. So first API key, we provide a URL, and then we get the snapshot ID, which we fill in here. And then if you run the script a second time and the snapshot ID has already been filled in, then the script's automatically going to populate those fields. So let's take a look at the script. So first of all, if snapshot ID in the first row, so not in the header, is still empty, then this part of the script will be activated. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a call for every URL. So this is the API call. These are the parameters, these are the headers, and this is the JSON data that we are providing. As you can see, I use json.loads to extract the JSON result, and then I'm going to store result snapshot ID in the field snapshot ID from the Excel file. And then at the end, we write this Excel file to this location, right? So after the first run, the snapshot IDs will be populated. And you as well see here else. So if the snapshot ID of the first row is not empty, but it's already there, then the script is automatically going to execute the second part. So what it's going to do, it's going to make an API call, but this time it's not providing the URL, but it's providing the snapshot ID like this, right? And then what you can do basically, so you can basically do the following: print result, and then you will see exactly the JSON result that you will get back, which includes all the fields of houses. So in this case, we are processing houses, but let's say that you want to scrape Airbnb or LinkedIn. Of course, the fields are going to be different, right? But this will all become clear once you get the JSON result back, right? So what I'm doing in this case, I'm just writing to houses city. So the left side, this is the Excel file, and the right side, this is the JSON output that we got back from Bright Data. Okay, so you see at this moment, snapshot ID is empty. Make sure that you close the Excel file. You can download the Excel file from our website as well. Let's run the script the first time. And let's open the Excel file. And now you will see that the snapshot ID has been provided, right? So all these snapshot IDs have been filled. It's possible that Bright ID is still scraping at those pages. So if you provide, let's say 1,000 pages, maybe you just have to wait like 5 or 10 minutes for the scraping to be executed. But in most cases, Bright Data will already have this data because they scrape it regularly. So the data set should be there. Okay, so let's run the script again, and then you will see that the fields will be populated. Okay, so that was quite fast. So now you will see here the URL, the snapshot ID, and you will see as well the city of these houses, the state, which is California, the country, which is USA, the status. So at this moment, the status of all these houses is for sale. But if you run the script, let's say in 1 year, probably they all have been sold, or maybe 1 or 2 have not been sold. I don't know. And then you see here the bedrooms, the bathrooms, and the price. These are just the fields that I wanted to have, right? So this is the result of the fields that I have defined right here. So if you want to change the fields, of course you can do that. And if you have tried scraping websites like Zillow or LinkedIn, you've probably already seen how challenging it is to scrape those websites and how fast they detect scraping traffic. So my tip to you, if you want to scrape those really complex websites, use a web scraping API like the one from Bright Data. It works fantastic and it's going to save you so much headache. Now you watched this video till the end, so you're probably really interested in web scraping. And if you want to learn more about web scraping, definitely watch also this video. See you there.